This is Rabbi Aaron Boxed, once again back with my podcast. And I want to start out a little differently today in the fact that, most rabbis, at least the ones that I know, and probably non rabbi clergy as well, so ministers and imams and such, um, take some time off during the summer for vacation, for travel, camp, or whatnot. And I'm no different. I spent 4 days in Atlanta with Bacha, vacationing while the kids were all at camp, just seeing some friends and eating a lot of food. Um, we're going to be going for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks at camp for the last 2 weeks of camp. So we do a lot of traveling as well. But what I find is the summertime is when a lot of people are moving from one place to another, from one city to another because of jobs or this and that. Because if they have children, they don't want to interrupt their school time and things like that. And what amazes me is that people move to Florida in the summertime, because to quote a very good friend of ours who said recently, uh, people don't move to Florida for the summer. And last summer, which was our first summer living in Ocala, it rained pretty much every single day around middle of the afternoon every day. And it rained for a good 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit less, but it was like clockwork. It was almost like you could expect it were going to happen between the hours of 2 and 5 or 2 and 6 every day. And I was told that last summer was unusual rain wise. I don't remember the temperature being as hot. It obviously was a tremendously amount more humid. Um, but I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. Bacha grew up in Houston, Texas. We've lived in Atlanta. We've lived in Knoxville. We've lived, obviously not here in Florida. Um, for us, humidity is not an issue. But I will tell you that Bacha was very upset last summer because it rained all the time, and she didn't like it. But once the summer passed and we got to the fall, and it was no longer in the 90s, or maybe it was no longer in the high 90s, maybe it was in the low 90s going down into the 80s, we began to realize why people moved to Florida. People moved to Florida because from the months of like late August into early September through probably even May, it's gorgeous most of the time. Now I know there's hurricane season, so we have some bits and pieces of time in the fall, but generally speaking, those are really really good. And obviously, wintertime is amazing. I mean, who goes swimming or goes to a hot tub in the middle of the winter? We do because we can. Obviously, indoor hot tubs are different. You can do that any time of the year. But I want to talk for a minute about this summer. Now, it hasn't rained every day, although it has certainly felt like it has rained every day. Um, we've had some pretty tremendous storms. We've had uh, uh, flooding warnings almost every day or every 2 or 3 days. Um, and I learned, what these big ponds of water that are forming outside of our neighborhood, these drainage ponds, why they're there. They're there to prevent sinkholes. Okay, that's a pretty scary thing to think about. But I digress a little bit in the fact that it's now upwards of 90 to 95 degrees, and we've got the humidity. It is literally disgusting outside. Now, my mother-in-law still lives in Houston. I know they've had like 100 degrees or hotter for the last what seems like forever. So I'm certainly not complaining. It could be worse than it is here. But oh my goodness gracious. It is so hot and so humid. And the rain is a relief this year because of the temperature. When we were in Atlanta, it did rain some. I don't know if it rained every day, but it rained some. It certainly wasn't as hot in it's funny for me to say that it wasn't as hot in Georgia as it is in Florida. That's true, but honestly, when you're in the high 80s, low 90s, what's the difference, right? Well, let me tell you, there was a difference between the weather in Georgia and the weather here in Florida. But why have I spent 5 minutes talking about the weather? It's because happiness is so important. We think about what types of things make us happy. I've always heard and I've always believed location, location, location. When I was looking for my first job at a rabbinical school, I interviewed at two locations in Atlanta, and the director of the rabbinic program said to me at the time, "You want to be in the South. You want to be in Atlanta. Location, location, location. As long as these congregations are a match, you should go to one of those congregations." And I did, and it was a match, and it was a, a, a good experience, and I learned an awful lot. And I never would have thought in a million years that I'd find myself living, number one, living in Florida, number two, being happy living in Florida. Now, I'm not going to talk about the politics and all that other stuff. There's plenty of reasons to be unhappy living in Florida, as there are in anywhere you could live in this country, pretty much, for that matter, or anywhere in the world for that matter. But the truth of the matter is, I have a wonderful congregation that loves my family just because they do. There's no strings attached. There's no preconceived notions. I've been here for just over a year now, so I can tell you, there's lots of opportunities for us to change and grow in the future. And yeah, so it's a little bit hot and muggy and rainy over the summer. You know what? It's okay. Travel, be happy. The most important piece is understanding that when you're happy and you're with your family, whatever that family dynamic looks like, that's all that matters. And for me, having two kids at summer camp for 4 weeks, one for 8, and the other for 4, having one child who went for 4 nights, recognizing that next summer I'm going to have, Botch and I are going to have all 3 kids gone for a month. It really does make us realize that time flies. Time moves fast, and if you're not happy in your life, you really have to get out there and find a way to be happy. Whether it's moving to a different city, whether it's taking another job, moving to a different kind of position in your field, whatever it is, find something or someones that make you happy and dwell on that. And recognize that when you have that, you have to do everything in your power to keep it. Because happiness is not something that comes easily. Not everyone gets to be happy. While everyone may seek happiness, not everyone gets to be that way. I remember a conversation I had with Bacha a few years ago. We were at a wedding that I was officiating at, and we were at the wedding reception, and we met somebody who'd been married, a couple who'd been married for something like 56 years or 57 years at that point. And Bacha looked at me and she said, "God, look at them. I hope one day we can be like they are." And I thought to myself, at first, thinking, because I am who I am, oh my God, is she saying that we're not as good as they are? But that's not what she was saying. What she was saying was, you get to a point in your relationship, in your marriage, in your partnership, whatever that looks like for you and your family, and it doesn't become a chore. It doesn't become something you do. It's just part of who you are. I'm not just a spouse of Bacha. I'm Bacha's partner. She is my partner. We are in this together, and we have to appreciate that and love that, and that allows us to be happy even when it's feels like it's 1,000 degrees outside with 1,000 degrees, 1,000% of humidity. We can get through it because we're here, we're together, and we're happy. And I wish that for everyone. I wish everyone to have happiness, to have love, and to have a reason to get up in the morning and keep going. May you have that like I do, like my family does.